So only child, of course, of founder Shiv Nadar at HCL, has been working now for about 15 years, has seen various functions of the group, has risen exponentially and is a driving force at the company. She's featured in many of the power lists in the country, of course, alongside the likes of Nirmala Sitharaman, Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, and many more. And you're in fact, I think, one of the first women to chair a listed tech firm here in India, which is phenomenal. It's a week of firsts for us because yesterday, of course, we saw the first, self-made
Incredible.
unicorn. Yeah, absolutely. While we're aware that HCL is renowned for its philanthropic efforts, I think it's important to recognize how much work goes into it. Roshni heads the firm's CSR committee. She oversees the company's involvement with about 120 NGOs and also is a trustee of the Shiv Nadar Foundation, which is focused very much on education. And what we're talking about today is also VidyaGyan, which is a project very close to her heart, and it helps to identify and nurture gifted students from economically underprivileged rural backgrounds. Equal opportunity is really what this is about, and it's something that we strongly believe in here at Ladies Who Lead as well. So Roshni, let's just dive right in. So happy you could take out this time. Tell us, where the idea was born to really create VidyaGyan. We all know of the need for it, but the idea that one could actually break the mold and create something with a far-reaching impact. How challenging has it been, and how did you get it started?
Thank you so much, Abha, for that introduction. So VidyaGyan has a very interesting start to it. So I think in 2008, we were reflecting at the foundation, and by we, I mean actually Shiv more than anyone else. And, he was, and our own journey in philanthropy and at the Shiv Nadar Foundation had started with the SSN College of Engineering, which is in Chennai, which is in the top 10 private engineering colleges in India. And, and that was in 1994. And I think what Shiv was thinking about, that ever since independence, there's been a lot more, even today, a lot more higher thrust in higher education in India. So, you had the birth of the IITs, you had the Indian Institute of Science. You, of course, have a lot of private philanthropists who are actually founding higher education institutions, which is universities. But how many people were looking at schools? And schools not as a medium of education, but a medium of leadership. So, for example, if you looked at historically the Doones or the Mayos, if you look back at the alumni and you see that today, a lot of them have done pretty well for themselves, and the one common thread they probably had is they probably weren't a first generation learner in their family. They probably had parents who were educated and valued education, and they were, relatively affluent. So, but 60% of India actually lives in rural. And, the hypothesis is, can we not get leaders from rural India who are not politicians? So can they be the future CEOs of India? Can they be the future entrepreneurs of India? Actually be the future wealth creators of India? But how do you actually prepare for that? And if you look at a Doon or a Mayo or even some of the great schools abroad, a lot of the leadership creation starts in school. It's about training a mindset and being competitive and being confident. But you need to have the opportunity. So I think that when VidyaGyan was thought about, it was thought about as addressing the need for leadership in and not really solving the problem of education. So really, that's how VidyaGyan was formed. It was a brainchild of Shiv and the former Cabinet Secretary of India, TSR Subramaniam. TSR passed a couple of years ago, but they were both Tamils, and they both say that Tamil Nadu is their Janam Bhumi, but UP is their Karm Bhumi, because HCL was also founded in UP, and TSR was Chief Secretary of UP before he went on to Cabinet Secretary of India. So they said that, if you can do it in UP with 200 or 300 million people, I guess you can do it anywhere else. So I think that's how VidyaGyan was born. And I more than just a school, I think it's a platform for, really bright kids from rural India to get to the opportunities that you and I have, which otherwise would be very difficult.
It's so interesting the way you've put it like that, to spin it around leadership first. And I think that's critical, especially when we see the current landscape of the country. Tell me, a lot of women, and especially those that we know that are doing on-ground work when it comes to NGOs and so forth, and really looking to empower people to create longer lasting change, not just sort of charity as such, they always struggle with a mindset change. Did you find that? Do you find that people are still resisting the right to education or the importance of education when you go into villages? Where do you find most of the talent that you've been seeking?
Aabha, it's been incredible. VidyaGyan started in 2009. And obviously it was a very unique concept because it was a residential school, fully free from grade 6 to grade 12. And, and it was a co-education school, completely co-ed. And and it was amazing. In the first year, we hold an open test in the state, by ourselves. And the first year for the admissions test, only 10,000 students and families came. But in the first year itself, we had about 30% girls. So, which was phenomenal. And these are families with income of 1 lakh and below, strictly rural. Their children are probably first generation learners, mostly farmers or homemakers, daily wage earners, and 30% was girls. And today, VidyaGyan sits at 50%, which is girls. And in the 12 years of VidyaGyan's existence, I've had only 6 dropouts. So my takeaway from that is that underprivileged people in India don't want just any education. They want the kind of education you and I have. So they're also asking for the same things, So I think, of course, the government schools are there, and there's some government schools which are better than others. But again, I think it's about, that film, Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. But you have to build it where they are. So, for example, we did have the choice of building VidyaGyan in NCR. And if, we could afford to do it, but if we did, I don't know how many people would have come. So the fact that we built our first residential school in Bulandshahr and the other one in Sidhauli, it's going in where they are, and really willing to put down that investment to say. And today, last year, the year before last year was a bit of a washout, of course. VidyaGyan is averaging for 400 seats for students, 200 at each campus. We have about 250,000 students that come to take the test. And we run it.
That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal.
So that's more than, there are 15,000 seats for IITs across India. And you've got a couple of 5-6 lakhs or more students that sit for the IITs. You've got 400 seats for VidyaGyan, and you have 2.5 lakh kids that come to sit for it. So
that, and that tells you the sea change that's taking place in our country as well, then, right? You've answered that and given us a real inside view of what's happening on ground.
And for just an example, Falguni, and then Aabha, and as you said, with NICA's listing yesterday, and exactly. I'm sure that's going to inspire so many more women, right? So and girls, because NICA is a household name, right? In rural, semi-urban, urban. So I think that's phenomenal. Yeah.
It's amazing you're saying this, because we were having the same chat on our members chat yesterday, and about how inspiring this is going to be. And some of our members were actually watching this with their daughters and, so on. tell me, you've been really hands-on, Roshni. You're giving me the numbers, but also share the experiences, because you've been hands-on. I know that you go to the schools, you've built this ground up, and you're so passionate about it. I'd love to hear some of your experiences in interacting. I know one of your students topped the CBSE, which was a huge thing. Maybe the kind of joy that she felt, or her family, and how they celebrated.
So, yeah, so I think VidyaGyan was a very interesting experience for me, Abha, because I think that was my first foray into my own entrepreneurship, I would say, at HCL and at Shiv Nadar Foundation, because, TSR and Shiv had a vision, and then they said that, but we want you to run it. So this was over and above, of course, what all I was trying to navigate at HCL. And it was 2009. And so it was a very interesting experience. We first wanted, I didn't know much about UP. The first thing I remember we did was we held a round table with, at that time, the Chief Minister of UP was Akhilesh Yadav, and the Principal Secretary and a bunch of people in the leadership at Uttar Pradesh in Lucknow to understand what their need was. And it was so interesting. We actually originally envisioned to start VidyaGyan grade 9 onwards. So, and actually it came from one of the officials in UP, says कि अगर आपको UP में difference करना है, you should go much younger. Now, and they told us that, grade 5, they have a state level examination, the UP state level. After that is a good selection. And, and I think that, I think not all government is bad. I think they do have true insight of the state that you as an outside player do not have. So you should value that and take it. And then, we bought land privately in Bulandshahr. And today Bulandshahr is a lot more developed, but 12 years ago, it was not the case. The roads were also pretty bumpy going over there. And the second school, Sidhauli, was established in 2011. And so we just split UP into 75 districts. So the first, 40 districts would be catering to VidyaGyan Bulandshahr, and then 35 going all the way to, literally the border of Bihar would be Sidhauli. And I remember that it was incredible because TSR had also been the chief secretary of UP. So he, I used to actually travel a lot with him during that time. He was the founding chairperson of VidyaGyan, and the board and the head of the VidyaGyan board. And I used to travel with him, and, we'd go and speak to a lot of district magistrates. Initially, we had a criteria that we wanted to take 10 students from each district, which was 750 students, and 50% girls and 50% boys. Then we started realizing during the testing that, in a lot of districts, the girls wouldn't come. They said girls toppers hai nahi. So, all the boys used to come and sit for the examination. Right. So I said, aise to kaam nahi karega. How can only boys come and sit for the examination? It's a co-ed school, which is true, Aabha, because I think so many girls drop out. It's not even a fault that there was any corruption. It's just that girls drop out. They said in grade 5, we don't have so many girls in some districts, Etawah and some really backward districts. So then we changed the process a couple of years down, and we said we make it an open examination. So the VidyaGyan examination in a newspaper or in a radio is, अगर आप सोचते हैं कि आपका बच्चा या बच्ची होनहार है, उन्हें कहो आके VidyaGyan के टेस्ट के लिए बैठे. So it's taking out the element of I have to go through the school, I have to register through the school, or the headmaster or the district magistrate is going to recommend. किसी को भी आना है आप आके बैठ जाओ. And so and then when the 250,000 students test, we draw up a separate merit list for boys, a separate merit list for girls, and then we choose the top, however, to make sure that the ratio is in check. And I mean, girls, maybe because of their background, maybe in grade 6 and grade 7, they're blooming a little late because they haven't had as much of a strength and a core as boys. But I mean, it's been, 6-7 years, VidyaGyan, only the girls have been topping. And now we've got a national topper who's also a girl. And she's a human.
More power to us.
Yeah, and she's not a STEM student either. So I think that that only goes to show that, give everyone an equal opportunity platform, and students learn at different paces. But eventually, who comes to the top? Who knows? It's a 7-year journey. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And what are the kind of opportunities for them post this when it comes to higher education, or do they aspire to get into, I mean, a generation ago it would have been government services, or is it today politics? When Priyanka Gandhi is talking about women getting into politics, not necessarily young girls, but if we're looking at shaping the pipeline, is that something they look at in UP? Are they looking at tech companies or starting their own businesses?
So I think
Everything.
across the board, Abha, I think that, once they're in VidyaGyan, I think a very important part of the mind shift that we have to work with them is, once you're in VidyaGyan, you're equal to anybody else in any other school. You're no longer some rural child who's won a scholarship. Now you're in VidyaGyan, you have to compete. I think in the world, if you are to succeed, regardless of the background you come from, you have to have, be confident and be ready to compete, and realize that you're not the only one. There are other children also outside VidyaGyan who come from very underprivileged backgrounds, but do very well. So I think, it's been 12 years. We've had a couple of batches that have graduated. Kids have gone to IIT, kids have gone to the integrated 5-year program at IIM Indore. I've got kids, of course, at NID, a few kids at NDA as well, and we've got about 10 to 12 kids who've gone abroad on 100% scholarships. So I had a girl who graduated from Wellesley. I've got a boy who is at University of Rochester, Cornell. This year, my first kid went to Stanford. So I think Abha, it's all the aspirational institutions that any urban kid from a top-notch school would be accessing. Now the VidyaGyan students have a platform to be able to access, and so those have been the opportunities. And then this year we've had our first batch graduate from college and get into jobs, and we've had incredible placements. I think that's really the proof of the pudding. So, like, for example, one of my kids, Himanshu, he's gotten a job at a tech company in the Midwest, and with a 53 lakh salary. And then, I've got kids who are working in Bangalore in tech companies with 11 or 12 or 18 lakh starting salaries, girls as well as boys. So I think, Abha, that's the beginning step. I think for a lot of people in rural India, before they can even think of leadership, they have to get financially stable. So I think that if VidyaGyan can get you to a point where you're able to compete like anybody else, get those jobs, get a little financially independent for yourself and your family, then you can start thinking of higher dreams. If the higher dream is IAS, politician, startup, entrepreneurship. But, these kids come from very underprivileged backgrounds. First, get some money in the pocket. And that's really what education is for in most of India, right? People get educated to get a good job.
Of course.
And so I think, like I said, if I can just say that VidyaGyan is not just an opportunity, but also a vehicle, to get them there.
This is hugely inspiring, and I think it's also inspiring for us, because we are trying. I mean, we're just starting out, but we're trying to create a platform, that encourages women, to go out there and strive. So it's amazing to hear of the power of being able to create something that can have such big implications for people and their lives. Tell us, for your journey, Roshni, and I mean in the context of VidyaGyan and building it over the last 12 years as an entrepreneur, or, for you as well, that was like your baby. It is your baby, right? So many of our members are entrepreneurs, and, just share with us some, the kind of things that come up in a journey, the sort of, it could go up and down, the any kind of challenges that you feel, or takeaways that you feel other entrepreneurs could benefit from. For instance, just being patient,
So, Abha, I think whether it's my entrepreneurial journey at VidyaGyan, or it's, what would take up maximum mind space at HCL or for any entrepreneur over here, I think it's surrounding yourself with the right people. That's always going to be your most important decision, because people make organizations, whether it's entrepreneurial startup or it's a big organization. And I think that over the past 12 years, we made some errors in selection of leaders for VidyaGyan in terms of who should be the right principal, or who should be the right leader, because I am not an educator. I am I did film and television and journalism as an undergrad, and then an MBA. And so when I was foraying into VidyaGyan, I needed to surround myself with people who are a lot more smarter than me in terms of actually figuring out the academics of it. Like, it's good to have a vision, but who's actually going to execute it? So similarly, I think for any entrepreneur over here, it doesn't matter if it's a school or it's an organization. I think there are always people with better skill sets than yourself. And I think it's important to onboard them, to learn from them. And if you've got a vision, get a few really solid, good people who are there to execute on that. And, because that becomes really critically important. It's in fact, as an entrepreneur, it's better to be effective than it's to be efficient. So I think what ends up happening, at least with a lot of women, because we can multitask, we try to do a lot of things, and we do it all pretty well. But the question is, do you want to be efficient or do you want to be effective? So can you actually cut out some things? Can you focus on on one task or two tasks at hand? Make sure that you're super effective with it. Task yourself with the best people that you can around you. And of course, some are going to be much smarter than you, and that's okay. And then, make effective, quick, fast decisions. So I think I'm also very humbled by how much my VidyaGyan kids have grown and have performed in just a 12 years time span, which takes, top schools and universities sometimes a decade or two in terms of like really bright students. And these are kids who come in class 6 from rural backgrounds. They can't speak a word of English. They've not, they've lived very differently. VidyaGyan is a very urban school, and, and it's got all the bells and whistles. Like, I could send my kids to VidyaGyan, and how quickly in 7 years they catch up. And where all they are. So it's always such a pleasant and humbling surprise for me as well. So I think that, be ready that sometimes decisions won't work out. But that's okay. That's part of every failure is an opportunity to pivot and change.
I just want to those were some great takeaways, and I always say it's the mark of a true leader when they're so humble. Roshni, everything you said is hitting right home, even to me. I just, we do have a couple of people that did log on, and if anyone has a question, Dinika, Aniket, are both founding members and entrepreneurs and investors themselves, like in the ecosystem. But Dinika, did you want to ask anything?
Yeah. Hi, Roshni. It was so nice to hear about your journey, about VidyaGyan. And I'm an entrepreneur since the last 12 years. And I definitely believe that, education, and especially going into the smaller cities, like what you said, that if you build it, they will come, but you have to build it where they are. So I thought that was awesome. I just about this point that you said, you have to surround yourself with the right people. This is the point that I have personally also been mulling over. And in fact, just yesterday in this book I was reading about leadership, there was a point about putting yourself in the other person's shoes and being human. But in India, we've seen a culture of people performing, under force. Like when you're trying to scale from a small scale, and the people you have in your team initially. So, how do you, how when people are used to only working under force, or trying to be bossy or arrogant, how do you see that change? How do you see that transformation in the organization? Because I definitely want to build an organization where everybody else is smarter than me and they can actually execute my vision.
Ooh, heavy question, Denika. Okay, no, I don't know if I have the correct answer for you, but I can just tell you, I think where the culture starts to shift a little. I think the culture starts to shift a little bit if you start, for example, shifting the incentive structures. So people working towards growth as opposed to just working towards performance. So, it's a strategic growth. So, for example, at least I remember at VidyaGyan, and they have these tier levels in a lot of schools in India, that I would often ask the principal, for example, why would a grade 6 teacher be given a lesser salary than a grade 12 teacher? And then, for example, they would say, because grade 12 is so important. I said, but in a VidyaGyan case where you're trying to transform these kids, grade 6, the first day they step into VidyaGyan from the background they have is also equally important. And the 7-year journey of VidyaGyan holistically is what is going to transform the child, not the push in class 12 because you have to perform well in a grade 12 examination. So, for example, our incentive structures and our salaries got completely aligned. So at least at VidyaGyan, a grade 6 teacher earns almost the same as a grade 12 teacher. So firstly, I think that was the first thing that, and it wasn't that I wasn't trying to equalize. I was just trying to make sure that a grade 6 teacher is as accountable for the result of what is going to happen to the child in grade 12, as much as a grade 12 teacher depends on the holistic training that the kid is going to be given in the past few years. So it was creating a balance between the two. I think incentive structure is one way, because incentive structure aligns everybody towards performing and a common goal, and also equalizing the level playing field. The other is where you recruit people from. So for example, in VidyaGyan, again, all our teachers are also, like, for example, the principal and founding principal of VidyaGyan was the head of the physics department at DPS Noida. So he was an urban academic who's lived his entire life in urban India, and then we got him into VidyaGyan. So it's not like for VidyaGyan I was trying to also recruit subpar is the wrong word, but let's say people who only taught in rural India or only taught in tier 2. Why? I'm trying to build the best school in India. Today, I believe because I have a national topper from VidyaGyan, I have. So why would I get in the wrong ingredient of people? So, I have to go. So I always laugh because with the Shiv Nadar Foundation, we also have the super progressive and fancy Shiv Nadar schools. So I always laugh. So I'm always competing with Shiv Nadar school. And, and where urban affluent families send their kids, including my own. But the thing is, the standard is the same. My teachers, my principal is not at a lower salary base or compensation to Shiv Nadar school teachers, because it's what you're trying to build. I wasn't trying to build a rural school. So similarly, I think for you as an entrepreneur, for anybody, what is your level playing field? Where are you trying to fight? Right. So we often ask these questions in business, but I apply the same: how to play, when to play, if to play.
Got it.
If I've decided to play in the field where the top schools of India exist, then I better have the right people on how to play. And also, and the when is, of course, now time 12 years on. So we've already jumped in.
Right.
So I think it's just aligning mindsets and cultures and in your entrepreneurial setup. If you are able to tell your people, these are the people that I'm competing with, eventually I think humans are really driven by competition. We all are.
Wow.
And it's okay. It's good to be competitive. It's good to be combative. But you figure out who your competition is. And then, people get excited by that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
So if anyone else, okay.
That was really helpful. Thank you.
Okay, and we just have a few minutes. I just wanted to also ask, and Denika, thank you for asking. What Roshni was, what are the qualities, and I know we're talking about much younger students, but since we're starting early, and it has been observed that in time to come, you're right, the pipeline will be, within that 15 to 25 age group. It's already starting to happen. um, what are the qualities that should be inculcated in order to make a good leader today? How are those different to what they were earlier? I mean, in recent B school surveys, for instance, I mean, apart from the obvious tech, and that comes under knowledge, there was reference to soft skills or negotiation skills, or other kinds of qualities as opposed to the earlier days. What do you feel are some of the essentials that one should look at, when they're thinking about their kids today, when they're thinking about coaching others, and so on?
Oh, wow. Again, Abha, I think it would be, people skills. So, people skills and teamwork skills never go obsolete. Tech skills go obsolete. Every few years, we have to upgrade ourselves because tech keeps changing. We used to have cell phones, then we had iPhones, then we had fancy iPhones, and then you have like tablets, you have, tech is constantly changing. We started with iPods, we don't have them anymore. So I think that technology is always going to be ahead and humans will always be playing catch up. But the one thing that humans will always have to do is work in teams. It's been so centuries ago, it stands true today. That really hasn't changed. I mean, even collaboration. So even if we're on Zoom and we're much more virtual, we're still constantly collaborating. So I think that that's not changed, but people skills are not easy. People skills are difficult. And, sometimes, a lot of times students actually learn it the hard way, and they learn it in universities, because in schools, if you're not involved in sports, how much of teamwork do you actually do? But I think today curriculum is changing a lot. You're pushing students to collaborate and do projects a lot more in schools. And all these kind of add to leadership skills, which are critical going forward. I also think, for example, when I reflect on VidyaGyan, that, one of the things, for my VidyaGyan students, where I think that we can improve is also, the confidence and making them proud of, where they come from. So I think that somewhere along the line, they kind of lose it or don't acknowledge it anymore. So I think a lot of our VidyaGyan students are so excited about being from VidyaGyan and then having gone to a good university. But, I hope that they don't forget that they come from UP and they come from a village, and it's proud to do so. Not that it's something to be, ashamed about. So I think that, I think it's very important and leaders do this really well. They really own their truth. They really own their truth, but not many people do. Actually, very few people actually own their truth, unashamed, about where they come from, how they rose to the top, unapologetic, really. So I think that, but that comes from a level of confidence and self-comfort. And today, I mean, you've also seen many studies, including social media, that have shown you that one of the things that kids all over the world are suffering from is a lot of self-confidence, self-belief, and a lot of other issues. So I think that allowing students to become mentally tougher, and I think that journey probably starts in school.
Okay, I think we're out of time. And Manmeet, did you have any questions, or you're good? Since they have logged on, I'm giving them a chance to.
Hi, Aabha. Thank you for giving me a chance. Hi, Roshni. It was so wonderful hearing your journey and what you've been doing. It's really, really incredible to kind of, put it across. So what you're working on is on a very macro level, and it goes on for students in general from underprivileged background. And it's wonderful that they have a chance to kind of be on the same pedestal as students who are coming from great families. But so I have been working on something on a very micro level. And I don't know if this question can be connected to the conversation, but so there's a trust called Kala Sakshi Memorial Trust. And it's totally art-based, and students who have been doing their bachelor's or master's in arts, we give them a chance to kind of come for a residency, and we try to mentor them throughout the year. So there's a certain, when you say, sense of selecting those 10 students every year from across the country. So we get students from a lot of students from underprivileged background who are pursuing their arts, and they are artists, and from literally really small towns and villages where we know probably after this college it will be difficult for them to sustain themselves in this field, knowing that arts field is quite a difficult one to crack through. So our aim is to kind of mentor them and get them prepared for the life ahead, what happens after you pass from the college. So giving them a platform to show their work, meet a couple of experts, senior artists, senior curators, or even the younger ones who can have a
You still have to ask the
conversation.
question. We're going to run out of time. What's the question?
Yes. So what I wanted to actually know is, in that level of their masters and bachelors where they are trying to move ahead, what is that skill that we should probably have them to nurture on, or what should we suggest to them that helps them after their studies, or kind of mentor them, which gives them that boost and the confidence that you're talking about, um, in comparison to other people who are coming from great families and they don't need to work, but they need to kind of drop out a lot of times. So what is it that will boost their confidence, and what can help them in that field to put them across, if that is kind of equal to students who are doing their school?
Okay. Manmeet, I don't know too much about students in pursuing arts, and we have enough in VidyaGyan as well, but I'm not really tracking them. But I think that one of the things that your organization can do, and what the students can also prepare themselves to do, is figure out a way, whether it's through networking or getting their foot into the right door, is, I guess, access to the marketplace. So I don't know if the marketplace is online, or the marketplace is gallerists, or the marketplace is exhibitions. But I think that the next, especially, I mean, again, I don't know much about retail, so I'm just putting my 2 bits.
Sure.
At least I'm thinking is that, even an artist at the end of the day is creating a product that maybe someone somewhere else likes or is going to want to buy. So the thing is, one of the things that you need to be thinking in your journey is often about, what am I creating and how am I going to actually get it out there? So I think, and sometimes it's not fair. The world isn't, but the people who have at least today with social media, I think the people who have the largest mind share really do hit some of the largest access, right? So I think that I actually think that for anybody who's in a field of a creative space or otherwise, always need to be thinking about how they take their products into the market space. And probably everybody needs to do a little bit of, for a lack of a better word, self-assessment, marketing skills, maybe do a course to understand how do you actually promote. These are actually very important skills. And how do you differentiate? Because there's so much noise, especially in the virtual world. So how do you really stand out? But it requires you to actually maybe read a lot more, do a few courses, figure out what is it that's different that other people are doing. I mean, I don't know if that answers your question. I don't know how it works in the arts. That's a question for my mother. I'm not particularly
She's
sure.
an expert.
But
no, but that helps. I would look into it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I know we do have a video on VidyaGyan. So I think, Sadaf, would you like to? And Sundar, hello, I just saw that you're on. I just wanted to say hi.
Yeah, I think it's a 3-minute video just to kind of take you guys there, because we can't take you guys there yet.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. I'm just going to put it out.
Okay. And we'd actually love to go there one day. Maybe we can plan it.
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
Can you see it?
पिताजी तो हमारे ब्लाइंड थे, आँख से कम दिखता था। हम छोटेपन से जो है अपने कुछ रोजगार के चक्कर में लग गए, ज़्यादा नहीं पढ़ पाए। मैं 11वीं तक पढ़ा था। मानवी बचपन से ही तेज रही है, पढ़ने के प्रति भी उसका लगाव अच्छा था, गुरुजनों की प्यारी थी।
पिताजी भी खेती करते रहे, जहाँ तक किया वहाँ तक अच्छा 8 तक हम लोगों को पढ़ा पाया, खेती में ही जुट गए। सुमित को भी हम तो चाहते थे खेती में काम बढ़ाओ, फिर भी उन्होंने टॉप कर लिया स्कूल में। फिर हमने सोचा चलो काम तो होता ही रहेगा अपना, मगर हम लोग ये नहीं समझते थे कि ये हमारे बच्चे इतना पढ़ जाएंगे।
I was that shy little fumbling girl. With time, I learned new things, and wherever I've reached, it's just because of VidyaGyan, because they have nurtured my mind with education and knowledge.
VidyaGyan gave me exposure. They made us learn English through hands-on experience. Now I'm a confident boy who is not shy. He can live a better life. He can face the outer world.
It was amazing. It's
Abha, I just want to say that, you know, the Manvi who's in the video, she graduated from Wellesley this year, and it's so cool. She sent me an email 10 days ago to say that, you know, I've gotten a job with BNP Paribas as an economic analyst living in Manhattan, and I've got myself a you know, so New Yorker, and she's like, I've got myself a sublet right now, and if you're ever in New York, you know, maybe we can go out for drinks. I was laughing so much, but it was so incredible. That's her from Amroha, so BNP Paribas economic analyst in New York, asking me for a drink, and she's like, you know, when you're in town, because but it's incredible.
so cool. That's awesome. That is so awesome.
Yeah.
And incredible is right. And it's just so moving and so inspiring to see. And I look forward to the kind of sea change this is going to bring about in our country.
I hope so. I hope so. Thank you.
Wonderful speaking with you today, Roshni. Thank you so much for taking out the time. Thank you. And I hope that we can, you know, look to you for further guidance in time to come for our ladies who lead as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Take care,
Bye.
everyone. Be safe. Bye.
Thank you.